Welcome back. This, my friends, is the A851 solid blocking. So this is a recycled plastic, high density polyethylene, and it's a solid product, so it's 6 by 6 inches or 135 by 135, comes in a 4-foot length or 1200 millimeters. I'm going to show you a shorter length of this and how the typical installation uses and scenarios. So the solid blocking for railing solutions gets used around the perimeter edge of your deck, which typically means there's two ways that it gets installed. The first way is where the solid blocking is parallel to your joists, and the second one is where it's perpendicular to your joists. Because you've got your deck like this, joist, 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 and if you want your railing going around like that, then the railing that is parallel to your joists here, and then the railing that goes along the top of your deck is perpendicular to your joists. So now let's take a look at the scenario where it's parallel. I've got my outside joist here, and I've got my first joist on the inside here and subsequent joists. I've got, for this demonstration, my 2 by 6 joist, which is really nice and flush with my 6 by 6 solid blocking. And then I use the one screw, which is the A404 screw, and then I sandwich the solid blocking in between those joists. So I've got my screws going in here. The frequency of these screws coming in from both sides is specified in our construction drawings. Let's take a look at the second scenario where the solid blocking is perpendicular to your joist. So in the first scenario we had the outside joist here and we had the solid blocking running parallel to that. In this scenario we've got the solid blocking going in between the joist bays. So in this demonstration I've got continuous solid blocking, so that means I've got blocking in between every joist bay. Now how frequent your solid blocking needs to be is determined by what railing system you're using and by how frequent the centers of those posts are. So let's say, for example, in this scenario I'm going to take away this second block and I'm just going to show you how we go about installing one solid block in between those joists. I've got my A404 screw and I use 5 of those in each end, so I'm actually screwing into the end grain of the solid block, but it doesn't have any grain, so these bite really, really well. Now, so I'd go 5 in here and 5 in from that end, and it sandwiches that in between those joists. Now in the scenario where you've got continuous blocking, so say for example I'm wanting to attach my railing system all along that front edge there, I'm going to have the end-on screws, but I'm also going to have some side fixed screws here. Now refer to the standard construction details for the frequency of those screws, because it does change a little bit depending on what profile you're using. So now let's talk about picture frames, breaker boards and solid blocking for doing any other kind of surface design layouts with your boards on the deck. So the connection for the solid blocking to the framing doesn't have to be as strong as for a railing, because obviously it's only just supporting decking boards, it's not supporting a railing system from twisting. So for solid blocking for picture frames and breaker boards only, this is not for railing, but for this installation scenario where the solid blocking is in between your joists, you only need 4 screws, and that is 2 here and 2 here. So in this scenario we're going to show you how to install the solid blocking for picture frames or breaker boards when the solid blocking is parallel to the joist. So we've got our outside joist, we've got our solid blocking, then we've got our next joist in. Essentially what we're wanting to do is sandwich that solid blocking in between those 2 joists. Now the frequency of screws is either 12-inch centers or 300 millimeters, so like one here, one here, one here, and you want them alternating in the channels. So I've got my profile here, so you might go one here, one here, one here, and on that, and you basically alternate them the opposite on the other side. So where you're going down here, you're up on this side. So it's like so. So don't forget, if you're unsure about any of the screw frequencies or the locations, just refer to our standard construction details for solid blocking.